Chapter 2427, Not Your Real Son. Published by Divine Tao Library. Translator, Salavan and Ashish. Translation checker, Pew Pew Lasergun. Editor and proofreader, Leo of Zion Mountain and Dale Ligerkeys. Father, the blood jade Killen seal cannot be destroyed. Feng Shi cried in shock. Shut up, Feng Xuan snapped back, glaring at Feng Shi with a look of hatred. He suddenly realized there was a huge disparity between his son and the young man before him. Is it because I have spoiled him too much? Feng Xuan secretly reflected. Yang Kai added, it seems that Senior Feng cannot afford 1 billion mid-rank source crystals. I take back what I just said about seeking passion sect having multiple businesses and being rich. This young master, this country bumpkin, was hoping to have my eyes opened, but who would have thought, TSK, Senior Bing Yun, since they can't afford it, let's cut it. Bing Yun lightly nodded before raising her sword. Feng Xuan immediately turned livid and hastily shouted, all right, 1 billion then. It was just 1 billion mid-rank source crystals, so it wasn't that he couldn't pay it, he was simply reluctant to agree because he didn't want to let Yang Kai lead him by the nose. Regardless of anything else, Feng Xuan was a third-order Emperor Realm Master, so it was disgraceful to be manipulated by Yang Kai before so many people. But now, he was at his wit's end and had to agree even if he didn't want to. Good, Senior Feng is a decisive man. This young master appreciates people with such sturdy character. Yang Kai broke out into laughter. As soon as he said this, even someone as indifferent as Bing Yun found her brow twitching, wondering just how he was able to spout such nonsense. Feng Xuan's face turned colder as he stated, this king can give you 1 billion mid-rank source crystals, but this king has one more condition. Yang Kai immediately snorted and rebuked, I guess Senior Feng hasn't woken up yet. Do you think you are qualified to bargain with this young master? Pay up the source crystals first, we can discuss other things later. Feng Xuan mockingly looked at him and asked, why are you refusing the condition so vehemently when you have not listened to this king's proposal? Yang Kai disdainfully replied, a dog's mouth can't spit ivory, I don't want to listen, it's that simple. While speaking, he stretched his hand out toward Feng Xuan and beckoned, pay the money with one hand and take your thing with the other, don't dilly-dally. Feng Xuan, barely holding in his anger, stated in an indifferent manner, my son ate a loss at your hands last night. Youngsters need to pick themselves up from where they fall. As such, my son wants to challenge you today. I wonder whether little brother has the courage to agree or not. As if acting in concert with his words, Feng Shi took a step forward, condescendingly looking down at Yang Kai. There was a look of disdain in his eyes and all that trembling and fear from last night was nowhere to be seen. Feng Shi didn't think Yang Kai was strong at all, believing instead that the reason he suffered so much the night before was because Yang Kai was a fox pretending to be a tiger, borrowing the power and influence of the group of Ice Heart Valley Emperor Realm Masters. He felt that he and Yang Kai had never properly faced each other head-on. As the young sect master of Seeking Passion Sect, he had learned the most powerful secret arts and secret techniques in the world, and had the most powerful artifacts. He simply had no opponents in the same realm. One-on-one, Feng Shi was confident that he wouldn't lose to anyone. Last night and today, Seeking Passion Sect could be considered to have lost a great deal of face. If he wanted to regain some of what he lost, Feng Shi could only get it back from Yang Kai, the root cause of all this. It was impossible for Feng Xuan and Yao Zhu to directly make a move against Yang Kai, as once they tried to, Ice Heart Valley's emperors wouldn't sit idly by, which would directly trigger a war between the two sects. The only other option left was to let Feng Shi challenge Yang Kai and then kill him in front of everyone, regaining Seeking Passion Sect's lost face. Obviously, Feng Shi knew what his father was thinking, so even though the father and son duo had not discussed in advance, the former hurriedly stepped forward with a look of provocation on his face. Yang Kai glanced at Feng Shi as he stated, pursing his lips into a smile, young sect master, it seems you might not be sect master Feng's real son. Feng Shi was momentarily stupefied, but in the next moment, he snapped back in anger, bastard, all you know is how to use your tongue. Yang Kai disdainfully rebuked, if you were his real son, why would Senior Feng be so impatient to send you to your death? Feng's eyes face turned ashen as he argued back, how dare you look down on this young master? If you really have the ability, why don't we see who is stronger and who is weaker in the ring? The winner will marry Ziyu and the loser will leave the Northern Territory rolling on the ground, never to return. A dissatisfied Ziyu immediately intervened, frowning slightly, what does this have to do with me? Feng Shi was really something. He is actually trying to drag Ziyu into this without any rhyme or reason, an infuriating prospect. However, when Ziyu recalled how Yang Kai had proclaimed that the two of them had secretly pledged their lives to one another a long time ago before so many people last night, Ziyu suddenly understood that Feng Shi was acting out of blind jealousy. But that was just an excuse. After everything was over, her dozen or so martial aunts hadn't brought this matter up again, as it was obvious to them it was all just nonsense. Only Feng Shi took it seriously, making everyone worry about the mental capacity of this young man. Just based on this fact alone, it was impossible for Ziyu to wish to marry Feng Shi. First, pay up the source crystals. Senior Feng won't be going back on his word, right? Yang Kai ignored Feng Zai's provocation and shouted at Feng Xuan, turning his attention back to him. Feng Xuan sneered as he took out an already prepared space ring. The source crystals are all here. But why is little brother diverting the topic? Are you afraid of my son? If you are afraid, then apologize to him. My son's upbringing is pretty good, he may forgive you. First, pay me the source crystals. We can talk about it after that. Yang Kai impatiently exhorted. Feng Xuan coldly snorted as he threw the space ring, grimacing. Yang Kai immediately caught it and scanned it with his divine sense, his face immediately lighting up with joy. Rather than 1 billion mid-rank source crystals in the ring, there were 5 million high-rank source crystals and 500 million mid-rank source crystals, which was exactly 1 billion if converted into mid-rank source crystals. It seems Seeking Passion sect is indeed extremely wealthy. They paid out 1 billion source crystals just like that. Suddenly, Yang Kai started to regret not asking for a higher price. After all, judging by Feng Xuan's appearance, he should be able to pay out more. Confirming that the number of source crystals were as agreed, Yang Kai threw the blood jade kiln back. Feng Xuan caught it and tossed it to Feng Shi right away, without so much as taking a single glance. He then indifferently stated, if you lose it again, you won't be the young sect master anymore. Feng Zai's face immediately changed and he hurriedly promised, Lord Father, rest assured. Your son will definitely take good care of it and never lose it again. Feng Xuan lightly nodded before he turned his gaze back to Yang Kai and asked, what do you think about my previous proposal? Yang Kai coldly laughed, Senior, I think you are eager to send your son to his grave. It seems he is really not your real son, but I suppose that's not a surprise seeing how Senior has countless wives and concubines. Your energy is limited, so it is inevitable that you can't take care of all of them alone. It's very normal for madams to go out and occasionally find other ways to soothe their loneliness. Hearing this, a strange look appeared on the faces of Hu Yuan and the others. It was clear they were all trying to stifle their laughter as they didn't dare to make a scene in front of Feng Xuan. In this world, who would dare to talk to Feng Xuan like this? By saying this, Yang Kai was making Feng Xuan wear a green hat. Everyone had no choice but to refresh their insight on Yang Kai's boldness, feeling equal parts admiration and shock for him. They were all a little afraid that Yang Kai would completely infuriate Feng Xuan, and an enraged Third-Order Emperor Realm Master would be a disaster. Little brat, how dare you? Feng Xuan was furious. No man would be able to remain calm if someone said something like this about them. Yang Kai sternly rebuked, didn't Senior Feng happily slander Senior Bing Yun just now? But now, when you were slandered, you suddenly turned hostile. Senior, I guess you haven't cultivated your temperament that well, it is simply worlds apart from Senior Bing Yun. Feng Xuan was taken aback when he heard this, however, he quickly regained his calm and no longer showed any irritation and anger. On the contrary, a calm and composed look had appeared on his face. Obviously, he had fully controlled his mental state. After maintaining a straight face for a while, Feng Xuan indifferently stated, in any case, a battle between you and Xie will happen today. Yang Kai let out a cold snort before agreeing, since Senior is being so unreasonable and playing the bully, then this young master has no choice but to reluctantly agree. A mere Feng Shi wasn't really worth his attention. Even if Feng Shi had some ace up his sleeves, Yang Kai was confident that he could escape. Considering all this, Yang Kai asked Bing Yun in a low voice, is it okay if I kill him? Bing Yun furrowed her brow lightly. She didn't doubt Yang Kai's words in the slightest as she had a good idea how powerful he was. Even Emperor Realm Masters had lost their lives at Yang Kai's hands, so no matter how strong Feng Shi was, he couldn't be stronger than them. Still, she pondered for a moment before replying, if you can spare him, it would be better. If Feng Shi was killed by you in front of everyone, Feng Xuan would definitely not let it go. Although my Ice Heart Valley isn't afraid of him, once the two sects start fighting, countless disciples will lose their lives. The gains would not outweigh the losses. Understood, Yang Kai nodded, the next moment a wicked smile spreading across his face as he muttered, then half dead it is. Hearing this, Bing Yun looked at Feng Shi, who was proudly posturing, with a sliver of sympathy. On another note, when everyone saw Yang Kai readily agree to Feng Zai's challenge, a strange look appeared on their faces. Even the faces of the Ice Heart Valley elders were filled with worry and concern. Although they didn't know how strong Yang Kai was, Feng Shi was seeking Passion Sect's young sect master, so there was no question about his strength. If it was Ziyu, even she might not be able to retreat unharmed from a battle with Feng Shi. Could Yang Kai be stronger than her? Hu Yuan and the others, on the other hand, were very excited. They weren't excited because of the fight between two Third-Order Dao Source Realm Masters. All of them were emperors, so how could a fight between Dao Source Realm Juniors excite them? They were excited because this way, the conflict between the two great forces, Ice Heart Valley and Seeking Passion Sect, might be resolved. They didn't have to worry about this leading to mayhem consuming the Northern Territory. They were all hoping for this. Therefore, they were a little grateful to Yang Kai for agreeing to this battle. Everyone could tell that Yang Kai could care less about this battle, and that Feng Xuan was being completely unreasonable. He was simply oppressing others with force to save face. At this point, Hu Yuan hurriedly suggested, I remember that there is a ready-made ring in the city. If you don't mind, why don't we take this there? Feng Xuan lightly nodded and agreed, since that's the case, let's go. While speaking, Emperor Qi surged from his body as his figure disappeared the next moment, along with Feng Shi. Yan Zhou gave a cold glare at Yang Kai before he left with a look of ridicule on his face. Master, is this all right? How about we let Ziyu face him? Feng Shi would not dare to kill Ziyu. Furthermore, he and Ziyu are almost on par in terms of strength, she will make a worthy opponent for him. Sun Yun Shu was a straightforward person who always spoke her mind. She could care less about Yang Kai's feelings and was clearly stating that he wasn't Feng Zai's opponent. Even implying he would die if he went up.